Hey everybody, how are you guys doing? Rick Graham here, creator of the Revelations universe, and welcome to Building Revelations, the series. So in this series, my goal is to help as I'm going through the journey of building Revelations, sharing with you things that I've learned, things that I've experienced, and things that hopefully to help you avoid some of the pitfalls and to do things more successfully in your creative endeavors. So along the way, one thing that has been very frustrating at times, and it's nobody's fault, it's just kind of the world that we live in. I have gone out of my way, and I don't say this in a negative way. I've gone out of my way to really try to think, okay, what could I create to help show people how awesome Revelations is? Because as a creator, without, in this situation being an author, without readers, what is an author? Yeah, you're an author, you write, but you're not a professional author without readers, people that are buying your books. So you have to be mindful at times of like, okay, well, what do I need to do to get more readers? What do I need to do to get people to pay attention to what I'm doing? Because it's very easy for people to get sucked into the trap of being very dedicated to brands. And it's very hard sometimes for the new person that's walking up to be able to get people to say, pay attention to them because they're used to the things that they like. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how it is. I myself am somebody who requires sometimes quite a bit in order to convert and finally try something new. And it's because like even going to restaurants, I know what I like, right? And I think a lot of people are like that too. They know the types of food that they like at the restaurants, and it applies to the same thing to their entertainment. They know that Marvel to them is safe, or they know that certain other brands, Star Wars, Call of Duty, Battlefield, the list could go on and on. They feel safe with that brand. They have an expectation. But when a new brand like Revelations comes up and says, hey, look at me, come read my stuff, they're like, I don't really know what to expect with you yet. So one way to really get people excited is through visual, right? Especially if you're writing to a male audience. Obviously, men, we know that we are very visual. Yes, some of us can be more, oratory and more verbal. But for the most part, we're very visual. We have to kind of see it to understand what's going on. I think there's a lot of women like that too, but it seems that men sort of fall in that camp a little bit more. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to understand as a creator of sort of the obstacles that you have to overcome. Well, I paid a bunch of money to get a bunch of illustrations made, right? And use those as book covers in my books. And it sort of kind of helped, but it didn't get me nearly the growth that I would have liked. Well, does that mean that my visual components were off in messaging? Maybe. Another thing that I've moved forward with is creating miniatures for my upcoming miniatures game, which is basically a tabletop game where you play like on your kitchen table, or you go to a comic store that plays Warhammer or similar games. And, you build your army and you fight your opponent's army and you just blow stuff up. It's a lot of fun. But as we've been moving forward with the miniatures, we had a bit of growth and excitement, which was awesome. And then as we've done some more, the excitement is still there, but it seems not to have had the incline that I would have liked. Now I'm presented with a situation where do I get really frustrated that like, I've tried one more thing, invested a bunch of money into something different, all this time and energy and focus and effort, and then it didn't really grow like I would want. Well, I can be super frustrated. I can't. I could be justified to complain and whine. But that's not going to change that people aren't paying attention to it the way that I would like, because I would like Revelations to be this major thing. But we're not there yet. When you're creating stuff, you are going to go through phases of hardship. You're going to go through phases of like, why isn't this working? Why don't other people see what I see with this? And it's just part of it. And you have to make the decision now. How dedicated am I going to be? Am I going to stick with this for 2 years, for 5 years, for 10 years? Only you can decide that. But I know that when I first started doing Revelations, I started with short stories. And I said, I will give myself 6 months. And I told my wife, I said, I will give myself 6 months to try this. I'm willing to waste 6 months of my time on Revelations, working hard, writing, doing all this stuff I'd never done before, really. 6 months. But I didn't want to spend any money. So I didn't get good short story book covers. So you could imagine that not that many people read. Well, then as time progressed, I'm like, no, I really still believe in this. It has the comments we are getting are good, so I want to keep going. So then I was like, all right, I'll do it for another 6 months. And now here I am at a year and a half later, dedicating myself to working on this now for years to come. because I believe that much in Revelations and in the brand potential and what this universe could be for people around the world, that I'm willing to sacrifice money and effort that my family could use maybe elsewhere in order to see this grow. Because if this grows, we're going to be okay. My family, is going to have what we need to move forward with, to buy our own house and to be able to, move up in the world. And if it doesn't work, I don't feel like it'll be a waste now. I feel like I've made serious dedication and serious effort into seeing Revelations grow. And that's hard sometimes because nobody wants to be a failure. Nobody wants something that they try really hard at to fail. They really want it to be something that grows and makes a lot of money, because that's the American way, right? I work hard, I do something, and I'm supposed to be rewarded with riches. It doesn't always work that way. And Revelations is something to me that I don't need to be a millionaire or a billionaire or a trillionaire in order for it to be successful. I have a mission for the stories that I'm going to tell, the main plot that I'm building up to, and I recognize that in certain ways I've sort of done something different that people haven't done before. Unlike most universes, most franchises, they tell their main story first. Then they may go back and tell side stories. So for example, Star Wars, episodes 4, 5, and 6 are part of the main story. Now they've added 1, 2, and 3, and now 6 through 9, or 7 through 9. But those are the main stories. Even 1 through 9 is still the main story. But as you know, there are lots of books out there. Some of them aren't canon anymore, but there's lots of books, lots of comics. There's multiple shows that add to the main plot, but they're telling their own side stories. They're highlighting characters that weren't influential in the main 1 through 9. So they're adding extra material. However, I made the decision that with Revelations, I was going to tell the side stories and build up the characters that are going to be the main characters. So at some point, we are going to be telling stories that is the main story of Revelations. And each of the characters, the main ones that are going to be there, are well developed by me. So instead of just creating all of the stuff on the back end where nobody sees the stories of any of these characters, the main characters will have resources that exist for people to learn more about them. They can read just the main parts, but they'll get a richer experience by going through all the other stuff. And that's a creative decision that I made. I felt that was a better way, and in part it's because I didn't know what the main plot was going to be. And as I've worked on these other books, the main plot is coming together, and it's going to be so freaking good. It really is. There's all these things that are being tied together, all these seeds that are being sown throughout the books to hint at other things that are coming, and characters that are being revealed that show bigger things at play. And I'm super excited about it. And even book 5, which is Spectre, it's another standalone book in Revelations, like Rise of the Inquisitor is. Spectre is showing, takes place before Rise of the Inquisitor, but explains certain other things that happen in Rise of the Inquisitor. So even though it's book 5, it's highlighting events that played out in book 1, technically, book 1, and it's going to just enrich the experience and connect the dots and make decisions that were going on sort of in the background of Rise of the Inquisitor make sense. And I think it's going to add a richer experience, and it adds an environment that the readers can sort of like start putting things together themselves. Instead of being told everything, they're being shown it. And they can experience it with those characters. And I think it's going to create a really, really awesome experience for everybody. But it is a slower grind. So if you are doing something creative and you are doing something where you're building something new, you have to decide your level of dedication. You have to decide your level of sacrifice in terms of time and money and effort. And it's hard, and nobody else can decide that for you. Nobody else can care about it as much as you can, just like I talked about in the very first Building Revelations video. And that's just how it is. And you have to understand that at times this is going to suck. It's going to be hard. You're going to want to quit, but only you can decide how serious you are. So as Revelations is going to continue to move forward, my hope is that people are going to see the good sides of it and are going to see how things are clicking together, and are going to see that there is so much other big stuff at play that is being revealed. And it's just going to create a really awesome experience. But when it comes to, I don't know how the heck I got off of that with artists. But when you have the artists, you have to basically kind of think about what you're going to do, what you're coming to them for. If you're coming to them for something that is, you need their help with something, creating something for you visually, you have to just kind of be willing to go through multiple people to find the right one, or right ones. Right now, I'm building my own team of artists because I found that the work output by none of them is able to meet what I need to move forward at an accelerated rate. So I have to hire multiple people to move forward. That's creating new challenges for me and new experiences and new opportunities for growth in a good way, because I mean, there's been some harder decisions that have had to be made, and there's been some others that are very helpful and good. And it's part of learning and being a more developed business owner. But when you're interviewing these artists, which I recommend you do interview them as best you can, even if you're just sending them a couple of questions, that will help you a lot to kind of determine if it's the right person. And don't be afraid that, tell somebody, look, I don't like what you're doing, nicely, as nice as you can. But the best way to prevent somebody from creating something that you don't like is be very descriptive in your notes. Send them images of what you are looking to have, and that can be a good starting point for them. Don't send them something and say, I want exactly that thing, because then that's stealing. It's just a copycat. That's not being creative. But I see no issue with saying, look, I'm designing a new tank. Here's the body of the tank I really love. Here's a turret I really love. And here's a gun I really love, like a cannon. I want you to kind of put them together and make them new, right? Redesign them a bit. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of things that build inspiration off of each other. Most human things are inspired off of somebody else's idea. And that's sort of what's really cool about us as a race. We reinvent what somebody else had, or build improvements to what somebody else had, even visually and creatively with art. And we're like, okay, well, they did it this way, and it would be really cool if it was this. And it kind of just plays out. And I know at some point, if Revelations grows, it becomes like what I want it to be, there will be future creators that will take Revelations work and say, we can do this with it, and tell their own stories and build their own designs. And that's just part of it. As long as nobody's copying downright, I don't see an issue with that, because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking what others have done and trying to, and some of it I'm creating in my own mind. But because I'm not very artistic, I have to sort of use something as a guide to convey to the artist of what I really do want. So this is all a really big learning experience. It's an awesome road to be on. And it's frustrating at times, but I really believe it is going to be worth it. I really believe once Revelations is a thing, it's going to all be worth it. It is a big thing. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have any other questions or anything, maybe topic ideas you'd love for me to cover, comment down below. Really appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.